Welcome to Return on Insights, the show where candid conversations with bold founders and leaders spark actionable insights for your business. I'm David Lindover.
And I'm Erin Abatangelo. Each week, we pull back the curtain with leaders who are scaling teams and shaping the future, sharing the insights that create impact far beyond the bottom line.
Discover how high-performing companies build enduring cultures, inspire teams to think bigger, and turn vision into action. If you see storytelling as your strategic advantage, you're in the right place. Welcome. Meet Philip Portman, founder and CEO of Textdrip, a business texting platform that blends the power of automation with a human touch. After leaving the corporate world to spend more time with family, Philip built companies from the ground up, including a food delivery franchise across 6 states and one of Michigan's largest horse farms. Now leading Textdrip, he focuses on human-centric automation, helping businesses grow without losing connection to their customers. In this episode, Philip shares how empathy and smart tech can coexist, offering practical insights for leaders navigating digital transformation. Welcome, Philip. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me, David.
All right, I'm going to start with a series of questions, and I'll look forward to your thought leadership, Philip. Thank you. How does Textdrip leverage automation to improve customer engagement while preserving human connection? Kind of the crux of today's podcast.
Yeah, and a great question, especially today with AI kind of taking over. How do you maintain your individual brand or the thing that separates you from your competitors? At Textdrip, we focus on intent-based automation. So it's not just about sending messages at scale and large volume. It's about sending the right message at the right time. And to me, it's got to be personalized. So you want a message that feels personal. And our platform learns from engagement patterns to help users rewrite their messages sounding natural. So when we're training our AI models, they're not based off of a large language model that's got everything else in the world and is prone to hallucinations. We're training it off of your data, the way that you talk to your customers. So when we're creating the automation that sequences it, it allows you to essentially clone yourself and do more with you rather than cloning somebody else that isn't you and sending out the same generic message that everyone else out there is doing. So automation and AI is great for scaling out your business, but it's got to scale out you. It's got to scale out the way that you communicate, the way that you talk to your customers, the way that you sell them. And that's really the difference that Textdrip is putting out, is the intent-based automation.
Very interesting. As a sales and marketing professional, that sounds really amazing. But I'm curious, where does it get the me from? Where's the information coming from that allows it to personalize like that?
Yeah, great question. So we inside our platform, we have a really easy to use platform from a texting standpoint, a communication standpoint. You're communicating with your customers and your leads on a regular basis, individually you. And when you come on with us, we'll help you craft your campaigns. You sit down in a one-on-one conversation with a demo specialist who will help you set up your account and create it using the language that you create. As you're conversing with your customers, we have inside there ways that you're actually training your model on how to understand what you're doing. So in the beginning, automation messages develop the way you want to, and then as you converse, you're actually training the model to understand the customers the way that you want them to. Over time, it gets better and better and better. And when we have over 98% accuracy, then you can start opening up more of the automation things that are specific to the way that you talk to your customers.
Great. That sounds right up my alley, actually. What challenges have you faced in balancing technology and empathy in your business?
Yeah. So the major thing in today's world is don't over automate. That's the biggest thing going on right now and it's a really big challenge. You can't just let your customers feel like they're a data point. We have to be intentional about where we inject the human moments into that automation. whether it's, the follow-ups, the check-ins, or support that actually listens. It's about balance in the entire act. And so along the way, in our automation sequence, you will have an inbox where the customer pops in, because in that moment, it's most appropriate for you to engage with that customer. And so there's a balancing act between how do I infuse myself and at what points can the automation, take over. And those are two things that we're constantly balancing in any sort of automation. And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, figuring out how that balancing act works, because we want to provide enough information, enough automation to help lift that work off of your job. But at the same time, you understand your customers probably better than anyone else out there. You have individual messaging and things that you're offering your customer that we can train down the road. But in those moments, sometimes you got to step in and direct to that customer. And so we built the platform with the automation, but also in ways that you can talk directly to your customer at any point in time, and completely turn off the automations if you want. So it's that balancing act that we continue to navigate between the automation, the AI, and then still having the human element where you're still actively involved in controlling those conversations.
So as a salesperson, does the system learn at the beginning about the specific context of your relationship with the customer, knowing how you've been interacting with that customer over a period of time and internalizing that in the system so that it can better service the needs of your customer as you would?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, this is a communication platform. So everything that we do is centralized around communication. And we built this platform around the premise that things like 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups, but 44% of the agents give up after one contact, right? And things like if you contact a lead within 5 minutes, you increase your conversion rate by 900%. So first and foremost, we built it around the idea that if you can have quick and efficient engagement with that lead, you're more likely to close that. What we're doing with the platform beyond that is taking that data and refining it to, okay, if you're closing X number of customers, how can we increase that by adjusting the time that it's being sent out, the type of messaging that it's being sent out, the duration of messaging that's being sent out. And so it's a combination of the analytics that we're getting over the time that you're communicating with what we're finding effective, delivering that to you in a reporting, and creating automation strategies behind it. So the thing with TextDrip is it's a fluid platform. It's not just, hey, I get on this thing and then I'm done. You're constantly developing, and we're providing you additional information as you go along to help you craft your messaging, the way you're targeting the customers, and the way that you're communicating with the sales leads along the journey. Because let's be honest, what worked yesterday won't necessarily work tomorrow, right? Or you could be in a completely different political environment, financial environment. The time of year could be completely different. All of these things are constantly changing. So we want to provide you with the tools and resources to adapt your campaigns and understand your customers as they change in the moment.
Can you share some examples where automation directly contributed to a stronger customer relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have one of the big industries that's been moving into TextDrip has been home services based businesses. So we've seen a lot of home services based businesses, and traditionally they are phone call. They've been doing it since like the 1950s. Their phone call. They're kind of old school in the way that they handle their businesses, and they came on with TextDrip. This very established company that's been around for a long time, and just tested it out. Took their existing leads that they have a strategy that they've been doing since the 1950s. They have a script that they've been following. They have techniques that they've been following, and they just plugged it into our system to see what would happen. And this established business overnight saw a 30% increase in business, 30% increase in sales overnight by just plugging their existing stuff into our platform. And that is just an untrained model at that point, right? We're just taking their data, shoving it in there and saying, this is what we think is going to work. Over time, they're going to refine that strategy, and we're going to start to understand using AI, understand their customers, their messaging, and things like that as we go along. And it's only going to get better. But just by using automation strategies and the power of text messaging, they saw a 30% increase in business overnight. Now, what would you do for a 30% increase in your well-established business? Because it didn't cost them anything other than text messaging and our base price of $34.99 a month. So when you factor in what they were able to do with the business, it's substantial. And the proof was in the pudding on that one. They were pretty excited about that.
That's a great example. And it sounds like a really natural category, to leverage text. And I personally leverage text all the time, not so much in my business yet, but the more I learn from you, the more I may be trying out your platform. So what trends, well, actually, let me skip backwards for a second here. How do you ensure your team stays connected and motivated in this increasingly automated environment? Now, I understand that's not to do with your platform, but certainly you've got a lot of experience in the space of automation. Let me know what your thoughts are. How do you stay connected and motivated in this automated environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we hire people who are passionate about solving real world problems. So right off from the start, our team is wired to look and solve solutions. We're the type of people that if you're having a conversation with and you just want to vent, we're probably not the people to vent to because we're giving you the solutions along the way. We're constantly looking for things to solve on, and my entire team is built that way. When I interview people, I call it, I'm always looking for the C strategy. So I present problems in my interviews, specifically with my management team. And the strategies usually have an A or a B solution. I'm looking for individuals that offer a C solution, which is it's not really presently available. It was not the A or B. It's outside of the box, isn't clearly thought of, but is a better option than A or B. Those are the type of people that we're hiring first and foremost. We're also hiring people who are constantly educating themselves. The question that we always ask in the interview is, what's the last book you read? And if they say the last book I read was in high school and it was one I was made to, they're probably not a good fit for our team. We want people that are actively reading or actively educating themselves because things are moving so fast, right? So it starts with the hiring process. We have an amazing team because we're looking for people that think outside the box and are constantly educating themselves. And then the next thing is we promote ownership. There's people on my team who have made major mistakes internally. They've cost us a fortune, but that's part of the process. If you're not breaking stuff, if you're not having bugs, if you're not creating errors, you're not moving fast enough in this environment. And so we want people that are challenging the status quo, that are looking for new ways, that are saying, I know this is the way that we've done it, but this is the way that we're doing it going forward. And then we celebrate wins that come from insightful decisions, not just automated one. And so we've had a lot of growth because of that. And I'll be the first to tell you, it is very much my people, the people on the team that come up with it. And it's not just the developers, it's the sales team. The sales team is using our software on a daily basis. So they're testing things out and they're coming back and saying, hey, it would be really cool if this feature existed. Or, hey, I know you guys came out with this and you spent a lot of time on it, but it just ain't working, right? And so before we ever even release a product, an automated feature or a service to our customers, our sales team has been using it, to generate sales for our own company as well.
What trends in marketing automation and customer communication excite you the most?
Yeah, so I'm a nerd about AI right now. I'm really excited about AI. I think there's a lot of cool features that are coming out, and two of the things that come to mind that are really interesting right now is one, the reporting capabilities. Like, we're able to digest massive amounts of information and understand it in a way that we never really could before. And so in our world, we're dealing with millions upon millions of messaging a day. And to be able to understand that and figure out what to do with that or what happened in those different interactions in such just large scale is really exciting for us. And it's only getting better and more effective at it. But we're able to understand, process, and come up with a plan around this data like we've never been able to before. And it's only going to get better. And it's only going to allow us to get more effective on marketing automation and customer communication because we understand what is actually happening in those interactions. And having that data first allows us to create automation workflows that make more sense for the customer. The other thing that we're able to do right now is prototype software faster than we've ever been able to do before. So I'll give you an example. There's this company that we're working with that works with farmers. And they have a very specific software solution that they were working with these farmers on. And the problem they were having is these farmers, one, are not tech savvy, right? And sometimes they're out in the middle of nowhere, and this app that they were using just didn't work. It didn't have data. But even in places where you don't have data, you know what you do have? Typically phone, and on the back of that phone network is text messaging. So text messages will still work in there, so they can still communicate with text messages. So they had this strategy that they wanted to take essentially their app and turn it into a texting using TextDrip. And this in the past, to prototype this idea of turning their app into this text communication thing would have taken months, 6 to 9 months probably, just to come up with a basic prototype. We were able to come up with a prototype in essentially a weekend on this using AI to develop the software. Now, keep in mind, this is a prototype. We're going to then take this and then we develop the whole process around it. We got to consider security. We got to consider scale, all that stuff. We have a team of developers that will take this prototype and then turn it into a production product. But we were able to create a proof of concept, a working proof of concept in a weekend. And so you think about this business who was previously kind of on hold. They had spent all this money on this, developing this app and stuff. And for them to come in to see somebody like us and say, hey, not only do we have a solution, but since we talked on Friday, we already made it. We already built it out. You can test it out now. I mean, that is cool. I don't care who you are. Like, that's the future. That's really cool. And so to see stuff like that continuing to come out as things change in the environment and as we're finding new opportunities, I think it's just really exciting stuff.
Very exciting. I had another guest a couple months ago who talked at length about that and has built a business around that prototyping. And the speed and the accuracy is beyond belief. But what does it look like? So educate me on what that prototype looks like from your experience.
Yeah, so a prototype on something like that, this one was specifically taking the way that their app communicates with their customers and following like a chain of commands and automation sequence on the back end. So a lot of it is plugging in APIs with messaging and things like that. And we create a very simple web interface. It's not fancy, right? But it has the boxes they need to check. It has the interface that they need. So a proof of concept is literally like a cardboard box with duct tape and wires hanging out, right? Like, it does the job to prove that the concept works. Now, in this situation, because we're handling text messages from the customer's end, it works, right? It functions. from our developer standpoint, we look at the code, we look at the way it's designed, and we see nothing but improvements that can be done on it. Like specifically security side of things. We can't connect it to our other systems because we lock down all of our systems for customer data, security and all those protocols that go along with it. But in the beginning, we can create a very rough draft of it that does ultimately what they need to do, which is interact with their customers in a certain way and provide their system the data that they need to ultimately connect.
Amazing. Amazing. What advice would you give to businesses looking to adopt automation without losing their brand's human element?
Yeah, so start with your customer journey, not the tech. Okay, and then find ways for the tech to build into that strategy. Too often people want to jump into the tech side of things without understanding it. And I've talked to people before and I say, hey, if you don't know what your sales process looks like, start with using TextDrip with just the basics. Put them on a simple drip campaign. Just message them back and forth. You're going to start figuring out what works and doesn't. So if you're early on in that, figure that out first. Because the worst thing you want to do is automate or throw AI at something that doesn't work. All it's going to do is compound the thing that doesn't work. So first and foremost, you need to really hone in on what works. What is your brand? Who are you? What is the strategy around that? And then start building on top of that. Now, if you come over to a company like TextDrip, we're going to help you with that process. We're going to help you identify what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to help you build your entire flow that works for your customers so you can figure it out. But if you don't have that part answered first, then you need to start there. And then along the way, I'd say if you see templates out there or ideas that people say that works through a sales strategy, question that. I've seen enough templates being offered on the internet for messaging and things like that not only do they not work, we're seeing carriers actively blocking some of these type of messaging that are being posted out there. So find out what works for you first in your messaging, and then start expanding out to it. Or if you partner with us, we'll help you figure that out as well, what works. But technology is not a replacement for you. It is a way to automate or to help you to build it out. But it's no different than if you didn't know what you were doing and you hired an employee, you're setting that person up for failure, trying to train them on something you don't know how to do, right? So it's the same thing with automation and AI. Understand what you do, understand your process first. Once you've got it honed in, then start building that process out through automation. And if you come on board with us, we'll help you fill in that journey and help you find a way for technology to help scale your business exponentially.
That's great advice. Final question. So where do you see the future of this human-centric automation heading? Let's say in the next 5 years, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, is an easier prognostication, right? So
yeah,
give me your best.
I wish I could figure out exactly where it's at in 5 years, but it's moving exponentially, right? It's not just, we're not just seeing this slow curve. We're seeing a rapid curve up right now with AI and what it's capable of. I really see it moving towards emotional intelligence. So automation, not just understanding what someone said, but how they feel when they said it. And the brands that will win are the ones that combine smart data with genuine empathy at scale. And that's really what we're trying to build towards. I even think about like Zoom conversations. If you're doing sales through Zoom, how cool would it be if you had an indicator that would tell you how your sales lead is feeling right now? Are you moving them more towards the sale or more away? And we could do that through voice patterns, through eye contact, through body language, and things that AI can understand better than you can. And so if you have somebody who maybe they're not really great on the emotional intelligence scale, using tools to help guide them through that journey and possibly identifying things that a human can't even see. And so that's the direction that I really see AI taking us in is some of that emotional intelligence component.
Very interesting conversation, Philip. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, David.